Alright, so hello guys, how y'all doing? It's been a little while, so in today's video I figured I'll show you guys how we can actually set up a Samba server and how to connect to it from your Linux workstation and from your Windows workstation. So actually there's something I want to mention. Into the tutorial. In this tutorial I added these lines. These will make it so it glances starts up every single time, so you don't have to run the command every single time you do it. It will do it for you and it will start up. So every single time you start up your server, all you have to do is type in the IP or this link with your IP and you should see glances as your server monitor right away. I already did those on my server, so you should do this and it will work right away. Anyway, so I'm going to start up this VM right now. I already tested everything on my main, like testing web server. And pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to first set a static IP, because when it comes to these services you actually want to have a static IP set, so I want to show you how you can do that. And then we're going to check if we do have a static IP, and we're going to then install and set up that Samba share, and then we're going to connect to it from our Linux machine and from our Windows VM, which is what I have set up over there. I think I should start it up in the meantime because we're gonna need it later. I will explain the server later on. Okay, it's on my second monitor. That's always fun to see. Okay, it should be starting up by now. So we're back at our server here. I'm going to log in. It's the same as it was before. You just log into your server. And first thing you want to do is we want to set a static IP. So what you want to do is sudo nano/etc network interfaces, which is a file in our etc folder, which is our configuration folder under the category network, and it's the interfaces file, which pretty much controls all of our interfaces. As you can see, we have allowed hot plug, and this is our interface. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to press Ctrl K, then press Ctrl U twice. I'm going to comment this line out so I don't have to retype it in case we need to re-enable it. And here what you wanna do is you wanna change the HTTP to static. And what you want to type in is press enter, then press tab, and you want to check the IP. So I'm going to save it and exit. I'm going to type in IP adder. Now what you will notice is it says scope global dynamic right behind the IP, and for some reason my IP has changed, so let me change it up in the notes so I don't screw this up. Luckily it's only in 2 places, so that's good. So our IP is 10.10.0.115, which makes sense because it's a different VM. And what you want to do is you want to open up the interfaces file, and you want to type it in like this. So you want to press tab, and you want to type in address space and then the IP. So for me it was 10.10.0.115. Hit enter, hit tab, type in netmask, which is the network mask. For me it's 255.255.255.0. So this tells us that the first 3 numbers will be the same for each and every device in our network, and the last one will vary for each and every device so it can identify them in our network. Then we type in gateway. What a gateway is, it's pretty much a gate to the internet from our network, so we can actually connect to the internet and install our updates and such. You want generally it's the IP of your router. If you have something like this, you can check it. Usually it takes on the same naming scheme, so the first 3 numbers are the same. So for me it's 10.10.0. and the last number is usually 1 or 128, I believe. But in most cases it's just 1, so you want to check by typing it into your address bar in your browser, and if a login page for your router pops up, that's your gateway. So for me, if I type this in, my router gateway would pop up. Next, we're going to set up our DNS name servers. What a DNS server is, it's basically a domain name server, and what that server does, it pretty much takes those things we type into our address bars, so google.com or twitter.com, and it translates it into IP addresses, and those addresses are actually used to communicate between all the servers around the entire world. So you type in DNS dash name servers space, and you want to set it up to the Google domain name servers. I think those are the Google ones. So 4.4.4.4, oops, just like that. You want to repeat it, but instead of 4s we will type in 8s. So DNS dash name servers, and then do 8.8.8.8, and that's pretty much it. So Control S, Control X. I'm going to run IP adder once again. As you can see, it still says that it's dynamic, so it says inet followed by our IP address, followed by a broadcast address, scope, global, dynamic, and then our network interface. So what we're going to do, we're going to reboot. Type in sudo reboot, and our VM should reboot. And you wanna pay attention to the word dynamic, because it will not say dynamic anymore. It should say, I think it was something like, it actually won't say dynamic anymore. I'm looking at my notes if you're wondering, because it is easier to set up than all the things that we did last time, but there are still some bits of information that are important for me to have written down so I don't misinform you guys. So there we go, we can type in our username and password, and now we can check our IP. So what we can do, we can type in IP adder, and you'll notice that it doesn't say dynamic anymore. It says our IP, broadcast, scope, global, followed by our interface. Dynamic is not there anymore. So we've now successfully set up our network interface. We can actually try and ping google.com. As you can see, we're still getting a ping, so it works. See 0% packet loss, so we still have internet connection and we have set up a static IP. So now we want to get into the fun stuff. Also, one reason why I want to set up a static IP is that in case your main DHCP server needs to be restarted, it still keeps its address just in case. Because it happened to me a few times. I was trying to set up a server, I wasn't able to connect to it because it was still, changing its IP address because of all the restarts and stuff that were happening in our network. So it's really useful that you have it. It will save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches, especially if you're setting up a printer on a network. That's one good use case for a static IP. So now we're going to set up our Samba share, which is a share that will let us, share our files to effectively set up a NAS, basically, that would be accessible between our Windows machines and our Linux machines. On the topic of Windows, let me check. Yes, we did indeed boot, and we should, yep, it's fully scaled. I think I will actually rescale it down, but scale it up a bit differently. Okay. Not what I was oops. I am going to rescale it a bit, and we're going to scale it up. There we go, good. So now we're going to set up our share. So we're going to say sudo apt install samba, and what this will do, this will install the samba package, which will let us set up our share. Now this will take a while to download, so just be patient. It actually won't take that long to download, so that's a good thing. Pretty much what the Samba share is, it's a share on your network that will work kind of like a NAS or like a network drive, and it's actually what a lot of schools and companies use to actually set up like a share on their network so that people can upload files and grab them, so it makes it easier to share files between each and every user. Now this thing, Samba server and utilities. When it says the modify Samba config to use Vin's settings from the HCP, say no. I had problems with this back then when I was trying to do it again lately, and it was causing me a lot of problems. But setting it to no, it won't cause any problems at all in our configuration. Again, your experience may vary. In my case, it was causing me problems, so I'm avoiding it by selecting no. Okay. Now, here's the thing that I should probably mention. Since this is a VM, a virtual machine, you might want to set it up differently. For example, you might want to set up a file or a folder on a separate drive and want to share that. I will mention it when it comes to that. But in this case, I'm trying to set up a share from my home folder. I will make a folder that I will share with the network, so we can actually open files and create files on our network. And to prove to you that does work, we're going to actually create a folder, and inside of that folder we're going to create a file, and that file will contain some sort of text so that we can then open it in our Windows VM to make sure that it actually works. So, we're just giving it some time, just be patient, that's fine. What it did just there, it pretty much made it so it can auto start. When you start your server, it will start the Samba service, which is actually pretty much the service that lets us, use Samba on our server. So now we're going to make a directory. So type in make there and give it a name. I'm going to give it the name Randy SMB share. I think that's what I wanted to call it. Yep, Randy SMB share. And we're going to cd into it. And we're going to list out, there's nothing in it. We can also do ls-all if you're skeptical. There's nothing in it. Those dots indicate maneuvering between directories, so you can ignore those. And what we can do is we can create a file. To create a file using your terminal, you use the touch command. So type in touch and then the name along with the file type. So it will be sample.txt, for example. It will be a text file. I'm going to open it up in Nano, and we're going to type in, this is a file created inside our server. When I hit Ctrl S and Ctrl X, this will save and exit. So now what we can do, we can actually exit from here. Oops, not exit, sorry. Type in cd to go back to our home directory, and we're going to clear it out. Now we're going to have to create a copy from our original Samba configuration. Just in case something breaks, we can restore it. So we can do sudo cp-r/etc samba, there we go, and smbconf, and we type in pretty much the same thing. But this time we're going to add .back behind it, and this will create a backup of our file. To show that it's in fact in there, I'm going to list out the directories. It's not in the guide, but to show you that it does actually work, I'm going to do ls. You can see we have the smb.conf.back file in there, so we have a backup. Now what you want to do is you want to open up the config file using nano, so I'm going to reuse this, and we're going to type in sudo nano followed by the path with the file, hit enter, and this might seem scary, don't worry, I will go through this with you. So I want to scroll down a bit, and here is our city workgroup. So the workgroup, you want to change this according to your domain. Usually when it comes to Windows machines, it will be workgroup as the default, and it will also work on Linux machines. But you may want to check this, change it based on your domain name just in case. But in this tutorial, in my use case, it is just workgroups. I'm gonna leave it like that. There's one thing I should mention. You'll see these semicolons followed by the few spaces. What the semicolon does, it sets it as a comment, so it won't actually apply it. So if you want to apply it, you need to remove it. And what you want to do is you want to change this to your IP. So since we already discovered our IP, I'm also going to explain a few things here. So change this number to your IP. So for me it's 10.10.0.115, and then we have this /8. The /8 is your subnet mask. A way you can figure this out is really easy. In Linux, I'm going to save and exit. Type in IP adder. Look for the inet. You'll notice that there's a / and then 24. So type this in exactly. So I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to scroll back down. Oops, a bit too much. There we go. And I'm going to change this 8 to 24. Now you might have noticed that I'm actually going to leave it as Ethernet 0. It's fine, you can leave it as it is. But it will work just like that if you have only one network card in it. If you have a different one, you want to change this, I'm gonna leave it as it is. I'm not gonna even bother changing it. So we're going to save this, and so hit Ctrl S to save it, and then scroll all the way down, Ignore everything, scroll all the way down. You may want to change some settings here based on what you need, but again, this is what I want to have set up, so it's not important for you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a share. Now, let me explain everything. So typing these square brackets, into these square brackets you want to type in the name of your share. For me, I'll use Randy share. Hit enter. And this is where you're going to define all these things. So I'll go through these one by one with you. So you want to press tab to indent it. And you want to start typing in comment, space equals space, and type in the comment about this share. So this is what people will see if they want to get some information about this share. It will give them this comment so that they know which share it is and for who it is. So we're going to type in a new share for Randy, for example. Since this is Randy share, so a new share for Randy. Hit enter, hit tab, and let's continue. We're going to type in path. Now the path is basically where our folder that we want to share is located. So since we create in our home directory, which is /home/ your username, the folder is actually titled Randy SMB share, sorry. So it's actually home, username, Randy SMB share. Now that's for me. In my case, you might want to search this up, figure this out on your own, but this is pretty much the gist of it. You want to type it in pretty much something like this. So /home/ then the username, in my case it's test, / and then the name of the file or the folder actually. So for me it's Randy SMB share. It's really descriptive. Hit enter, hit tab. Now we're going to type in browsable. Have I typed it in correctly? Browsable, it's on the, oh, okay, good. So what this will do, we're going to set it to yes. It's pretty much a setting that will make it accessible from our file manager inside of our Linux machines. So if you go into your file manager and go to networks, you'll be able to see this share specifically, because it will show you the machine, and then in the machine it will show you the share. So it's important to set it up like that. Next, we want to set it up so that we can actually like write to it. So we're going to say read only equals no. Now, depending on how you configure this, you may want to change this because of security. But if you're setting up another share and you don't want anybody else to write to it, you can set it up so that only certain types of people can access it. But you know, it depends on you. You can also have a guest share, so guests can access it to share files between them, but this is not what we're covering today. We're covering a really simple SMB share, a simple file sharing server, if you will. Next we're gonna type in guest space OK, space equals space, and we're gonna type in no. With this we set it up so that guests cannot join or access this like this share, so it will ask them for the username and password essentially. But in order to actually gain us permission to log into this file sharing business, basically into this folder, so we can, you know, open files and edit them, we have to set a valid user. To do this, we will type in valid space users, then space equals space, and type in the users you wanna add. What you can do is you can actually set them as a part of a group. So instead of adding each individual user here, like, I don't know, test, and I think it was Andy, for example, all you have to do is, if they are part of a group, you would do the @ sign and type in the name of the group, so name of group, for example, and this will add all the users from the group to be able to access that share. However, here we have only one user, so I'll type in test. This is all you have to do. Set up a comment so that people know what share it is, the path to the folder you want to share across many devices on your network, make it browsable so it's actually visible for the users from their file managers, read only, so read only equal no, so that people can actually write to it. Then we have, oops, sorry. Then we have guest OK. What this says, it's pretty much that no one else besides us can join or access this share, and valid users are users that have access to this share specifically. So I'll hit Ctrl S and hit Ctrl X to save and exit. Next thing I'm gonna type in is we're gonna restart the Samba share service. So to do this, type in sudo systemctl restart smb. You can press tab and we'll complete it, but I usually like to type it in, so smbd. And to check if it's working, just change restart to status. And as you can see, it's running. Everything seems to be good. It says SMBD is ready to serve connections in the status section, so that's good. Press Q to exit this thing. However, we need to add ourselves, basically us as the user, into the, we need to set up a password for our user basically. So what you want to do is type in sudo smb pass and press tab and we'll go to complete. So it says sudo smb pass vd, which is for setting a password. Then add the -a flag. This will add a individual user, and here you can type in either the group of people, but I don't quote me on that, I'm not really sure. But usually this works with just one user, so we're going to type in test to add ourselves basically to this like we're gonna create pretty much an account with which we wanna set or gain access to this share. So if you wanna add each individual user, you would do it like this: sudo smb passcvd -a and the username of the user you wanna add. Once you hit enter, it's going to ask you for the password. Again, this is a tutorial, so for me it will be TEST, and again TEST, and boom, added user test. So now what? Well, if you want to access it, for example, like I from my Manjaro Linux instance, you need to have a few things installed. So you need to install a package called Samba and cifs-utils, which are packages that let us access it. I already have them installed, so I'm not gonna install them. And what you want to do is you want to open up your file manager. In my case, it's PC1FM, and you want to go into Go Network, and what you will see here, we have a foma-tut, which coincidentally is the name of our server right here. So you want to double click this, and you notice this Randy share right here. So you can double click this, and what it will do is it should, Yep, it asks us to join in. So if we do anonymously, it will not let us through. See, it won't let us through. It says it's actually required to join it. So when I click connect as a user, type in the username, so it was test. We set the domain to work group, so we left it as it was, we didn't change that. And the password was TEST. You can set it to forget the password immediately, which I would recommend if you're accessing it only once per hour, for example. But if you're accessing it more frequently than this, you want to set to remember forever until you log out, which is the safest option. So we're going to click OK or connect, and you will see this is a sample.txt file. So if I double click this, you'll notice it says this is a file created inside our server, which if you remember is what I typed in our server. So it's working. So we have access from Linux. But what about Windows? Well, in Windows it's a bit more complicated, that's why I started up my VM over here. So I'm here in my Windows VM, and what you want to do is you want to go into your file manager. I will make the video of how you can set up a really speedy Windows VM. You'll just have to give me some time to do that video, it's a bit more complicated. So you open up your file manager, this is Windows 10, and you want to right click this PC, and then what you want to do is you want to click on add a network location. What you want to do next is it will show up this wizard. You want to click next, choose a custom network location, select that and click next, and this is where you want to type it in as follows. So it uses backslashes because it's Windows, so 2 backslashes followed by the server IP. So the server IP, as you can see, I tested it on my main server, but it's not important. So the server IP for me is 10.10.0.115. Type in another backslash and type it in as Randy Share. So what should happen, just like that, like with a space, I set the name with a space. You sometimes don't want to do it because it causes some issues on certain like clients, but in this case it works just fine. So if I click next, we should have it, you know, ask us for our username and password. So I click next, it detects that the Randy Share is on that IP, under Samba, on that version, under Debian, which is our server. We have a Debian server running Samba version 495. So when I just click next, it's successfully created this network location. You may want to leave this tick so it opens up automatically. As it says, it will open up as it will be a shortcut in our computer. I'm gonna click finish, and what you will notice is it will ask us for our network credentials. It says access is denied, so if I click cancel, it doesn't let me through. If I want to join, I double click it, and I want to type in, you know, the username and password. So for me it was TEST and TEST. Once I hit enter, we're in it. So this is what the valid user flag does in there that we set up. Only the user test can join. In fact, we could set up a bunch of other users with varying levels of permissions, but since this is a really simple tutorial, that's all you have to set up. You see this sample.txt, you want to click it, and you'll notice that it's the same file across all our machines, so we have access to it from both Windows and Linux. So yeah, that's pretty much all there's to it. There's nothing else you have to do, it's all set up like it should be. Everything works, you can transfer files and things from your, like we could transfer my Windows minimizer thing in there if we wanted to, you know, like to download it from our server for example, but that's not important. Actually we could do this to show that we can actually do stuff, so I'm going to click copy, and I'm going to go into this computer, Randy Share, right click and paste it in. And as you can see, we're transferring, it's not the fastest transfer speed, but we're effectively transferring files between our VMs. So we now have it on our server, we can double click it. We could effectively run it from here, and it would work. Sometimes Windows spazzes out, so I'm sorry about that. But we could effectively run it from here just fine. As you can see, it asks us if we want to run this from this location. We'll say run. It will take a bit of time because it has to load it into memory, and there it is. It's fully loaded from our server. It's actually not on our drive anymore. But yeah, it's working. It's actually on our server right now, stored. We can open files like. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can see, it's working. We can copy stuff to it and from it even. Let me put this in my downloads folder, for example. And it's in my downloads. It is. You can open it up, see it's that file. So we have set up effectively a network share on our network, so we can transfer stuff back and forth. In fact, I should be able to see it in my file manager over here on this machine, on my main workstation as well. So we can just go here, we can go to network, format it, run the share. I'm going to log in. There we go, and indeed we do have it in here. We have everything in here. So yeah, see, we have also this file here again, so it does work. You know, yeah, everything works. We have access to everything. We can browse through all of this. This wasn't originally here, I just transferred it in. So it's a really neat way of sharing files across your network if you don't have the time to do so. Also, one more thing, you can go into the network tab, and since we've added it in, it won't show up normally, but it will show up over here. So we're gonna click the IP and you'll see the test and then the Randy share. So you can go into our Randy share, and that's it. That's our network storage. It works. Oh, cool. File Explorer crashed. But yeah, that's pretty much all there's to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it brought you some more information on this topic, and I will see all of you guys hopefully in the next video.